the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? That our foreign policy has nothing to do with national security, that it never changes from one administration to the next. What if war and preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests?
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
Make these elected people start looking at that document called the Constitution. We have the ability to rise up and change it. It isn't popular speech that must be protected. Popular speech doesn't need protection. It is unpopular speech that you protect.
The mafia never actually went away. It just got bigger and more powerful. It's called the United States government.
Anybody who would debunk the UFO phenomenon itself don't know what he's talking about.
The hell with this Patriot Act.
Good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the globe, in the chat room or on the phone lines. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and this broadcast is coming at you live from the East Coast of the United States, more specifically, the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina. You know, it's funny, I just double-checked to make sure I didn't have my other microphone muted. Good evening, everybody, and welcome aboard. Tonight we've got Dr. Scott McQuate returning to Late Night in the Midlands. You know, it's interesting. He has, just like many of the guests who I bring on, has quite a view as far as what they feel they've uncovered within the Bible, the prophecies, even ancient texts, what have you. Well, Scott's one of those guys who feels as though he's got it figured out and he's got the answers, at least a lot of the answers. So he's going to talk to us tonight about that. And I know last time he was on, we got quite a response. You know, I got a lot of messages after, and especially we put it up on YouTube and had quite a bit of action going on there as well. And you know, half the people are like, hey, he's right on. And then there's that other half, that the really tight religious ones who got a little irritated with some of it. And, hey, that's what we're here for, to stir things up. It's February 22nd, 2013. We all seem to still be alive, at least for one more day, one more night, and here we are. 347-989-1012, that's the number to call in. When we start taking calls, you have to press 1, so I know you want to get on, and you can also call in using Skype. And, you know, my ex, her timing is impeccable. It seems like whenever, the very few times that she actually drops my son off to me, it's like she gets here just when I'm going on the air. Just when I'm going on the air. I don't know, it seems like it's timed perfectly. Yeah, no animosity there, right? All right, let's talk about what's in the news. Iran's justice system recently worked through the biggest banking fraud case in the nation's history. According to an article by the New York Times, the outcome of the case was made official on Monday. Results were dramatic, to say the least. The justice spokesman, and I'm not even going to try that name, told reporters that 4 people had been officially sentenced to death on charges of corruption and disrupting the country's economic system. The guilty party was responsible for mishandling $2.6 billion of funds, using forged documents in order to receive credit from banks, permitting them to purchase state-owned companies. According to the indictment, the owners of Area Investment Development Company, which is at the center of controversy, had bribed bank managers to get loans and letters of credit. The company has more than 35 offshoots which are active in diverse business activities. Additionally, the president of the bank, Mally Branch in Quiche, was condemned to life in prison, so he's getting off easy, though. The former deputy minister has been ordered to spend a decade in prison as well, according to Iran's attorney general. Several others involved in this infamous scandal has also been slapped with heavy fines, and many have also been prohibited from holding public office. Economist Nori Robini added, bankers are greedy. They have been greedy for the last hundreds of years, and you have to make sure that they behave in ways in which you minimize those risks. Well, apparently they didn't minimize those risks, and now I understand there are 3 of them, or is it 3 or 4? I think it's 3 of them, last I heard, that are set to hang. They're going to hang them. They're going to get rid of some of these crooked bankers. And I got to tell you, perhaps Iran is onto something by enforcing real consequences when insiders mess with the country's entire economic system. The death sentence decision is obviously harsh, but nevertheless, they got it. There's 4 bankers that are going to, they're going to meet the noose. The death sentence decision, again, it's harsh, but Iran's justice system is pretty harsh in general. What's decided cannot be undone. So, when you're there, you get sentenced, there's no, hey, I want to appeal this. They said they are trying to set an example. Elite criminals shouldn't be treated differently than any other criminal. They should be prosecuted, not protected. And I totally agree with that. And I'm still fighting my cold, but getting through it. According to constitutional attorney Michael Connolly, the government is now moving to strip veterans it determines to be mentally incompetent of their Second Amendment right to own a firearm. Connolly cites a letter sent by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs to hundreds, perhaps thousands, of America's heroes. Determination of incompetency will prohibit you from purchasing, processing, receiving, or transporting a firearm or ammunition. The VA letter states if you knowingly violate any of these prohibits, you will be fined, imprisoned, or both, pursuant to the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, as implemented at 18 United States Code 924, as they've got it here in this article. Connolly explains that the letter provides no specifics on the reasons for the proposed findings of incompetency and is based on determination by a bureaucrat at the VA. In every state in the United States, no one can be declared incompetent to administer their own affairs without due process of law, and that usually requires a hearing with evidence being offered to prove to a judge that the person is indeed incompetent. This is a requirement of the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and obviously the Department of Veteran Affairs can't be bothered with such implements as the Constitution, particularly since they are clearly pushing to fulfill one of Obama's main goals, the disarming of the American people. And that's what it's coming to. And there's that big question. If that day comes and they start going door to door collecting guns, what the hell is going to happen? I mean, there's going to be some people who are going to, fight it out. And then there's others that wonder, what do you do? I mean, because when you start shooting, are they going to roll in the tanks, the drones? What else? So people, I think now more than ever would be a great time for each and every one of us to come together and maybe discuss, I don't know, we got the internet, so we could bring some communities together, and let's discuss as the people what we're going to do if that happens. Because I think we need to know, because they already know what they're going to do if you don't oblige. So we better know what we're going to do if we're not going to drop to our knees and kiss their rings. Getting serious. And we'll be talking more about that with my guest tonight. An ancient Egyptian pyramid dating back more than 3,000 years has been discovered in the city of Luxor. The monument was built for an advisor to King Ramses. The remains were unearthed during excavations on a hill in Shiki Adel Awana. I'm trying to say these weird names by an archaeological mission from the Free University of Brussels in Liege. They say the mud brick pyramid, whose original height was 15 meters, comes with quite a history, and they say that they could be now getting closer to discovering the truth about our ancestors. You mean they're not monkeys? We didn't evolve from the ape? Oh, wow, that's news. Putin warns Obama. Last Saturday, the U.S. media went wild, saying things about Russia, like Russian nuclear bombers intercepted near Guam. Air Force confirms Russian jet circled U.S. territory, sending a message. Russian Bear bombers caught circling Guam before Obama delivered the State of Union. That was the Blaze that said that. It happened right before Obama delivered his State of the Union address, they said. And this was Putin. He's not too happy. The funny thing was, he says, is that it happened last Tuesday, but was not reported until Saturday. The Blaze is right, he says. There was a message. NBC and others would have been on time with their news if they had listened closer to Putin rather than kissing Obama's behind and following Soros' orders. Last Thursday, Putin sent Obama a Valentine. Any kind of direct or implicit interference with Russia's home affairs, all sorts of pressure being exerted on our country or our allies is absolutely unacceptable, he told Obama. He never mentioned the U.S. never said that the U.S. implied that it was going to put up these anti-bomb and missile defenses that they wanted to put, I believe, in Turkey. And so he had some things to say about that as well. I'm trying to put it together, folks. I've got my notes here are kind of scrambled. Let's see here. He says, with McFaul paying off protesters in Moscow and spreading hate, as well as Soros backing Obama, and Sharp, while pushing Clinton to extremes, The U.S. looks more like terrorists than the terrorists. They started fighting. And, I can't argue with that. We do. I told you, our military is being used as a strong arm, the iron fist of the New World Order. And it's really sickening. And then when they come home, they want to strip them of their weapons, of their rights, and they want to drug them up, and they just forget about them. The meeting in Moscow was about counterterrorism. And again, can anyone blame Putin for defending Russia? I can't. And let's face it, we're over there, we're screwing around, with a lot of their interests. And, it's not looking good. Yeah, I tell you, these other countries are getting sick of what's going on. And, they need to know, though, that the American people are sick of it, too. It's the New World Order who's behind it all. And if I can get my stuff straightened out here, I will. Okay, an entrepreneur wants to charter a SpaceX rocket to launch 2 interplanetary buddies on the ultimate joyride, a mission to Mars, but the timeline is tight, as in 5 years' time. All these stories are over on LateNightInTheMidlands.com in the latest news section. You can check them out this way while I'm screwing them up. You can get the real deal by going to the website in the latest news and checking it out yourself. But they want to do a private space flight and put two men up there. The random piece of space flight news is brought to you by Dennis Tito, a multimillionaire and founder of the nonprofit Inspiration Mars Foundation. Tito also knows a thing or two about space. He was the world's first space tourist who in 2001 spent a little over a week living on board the International Space Station, which he paid $20 million for his orbital trek. And now it seems he has some much, much bigger goals, and that's what we need, some private-type space organizations coming together and doing these things. This way, maybe we can get the truth rather than everything being held back by NASA and our government. And, I will be so happy when this cold is finally over with. As I said, it was almost gone, and then this coughing part came to it with this constant scratch in the throat. And, if I don't keep my coffee, my water, and occasionally my Mountain Dew, which I'm about to stop drinking that because I've read enough stuff to say yuck. So, but I got to keep a drink close by here, otherwise I'll start choking on you. 347-989-1012. That's the number to call in. I'm going to take a break and refill my mug, and when we come back, I'll have Dr. Scott McQuate with us here on Late Night in the Midlands. Get over to LateNightInTheMidlands.com.
Is there proof of God's existence in our government's records? Author Jose Collazo brings his years of research into this stunning question to light in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more. Touching on little-known government projects such as the Remote Viewers Program and Active Auroral Research Program, Collazo has uncovered some amazing discoveries through his research and use of the Freedom of Information Act. From uncovered information on the Ark of the Covenant to connections between natural disasters and nuclear testing, experience this revealing look into our government's obscure and hidden work. Discover how new and experimental technologies may change our world forever and uncover monumental proof and answers to mankind's greatest questions in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more.
Hello, this is Michael Vera for CureShop.com with products endorsed by Dr. Leonard Horowitz, including Liquid Dentist, a one-stop defense system for not only your mouth, but your whole body. This unprecedented product aggressively attacks the critters that cause oral diseases using concentrated microfine silver plus oxygen and minerals to help reverse tooth decay and gum diseases, helping repair your teeth and gums naturally. Then, by swallowing this amazing and good-tasting tooth and gum saver, you actually get a natural, nutritional immunization against more than 1,000 strains of oral bacteria and viruses when you swallow. Liquid Dentist is awesome for boosting natural immunity. Imagine your teeth feeling hygienic clean and super smooth for up to 3 days after each use. Swish with it 3 minutes or more after brushing and flossing. Gargle to freshen and protect your throat, and then swallow Liquid Dentist. Wow! What a great idea. It's all natural, healing, and protective. Dr. Horowitz developed Liquid Dentist based on emerging science from England showing a 20-second exposure to medical-grade ozone kills germs deep within decay, even down to the nerve. Then highly concentrated mineral mouth rinsing can remineralize your teeth and harden them, even harder than they were originally. This way, teeth can be saved and not drilled away or lost due to decay or tooth fracture. Plus, Liquid Dentist kills periodontal germs and leaves your breath fresh and teeth feeling professionally clean for days. Go to liquiddentist.net to learn more, or go to CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com. CureShoppe.com to order your supply of Liquid Dentist today, or call toll-free 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Call now to save your smile. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. The LNM Radio Network covers it all with great shows like Tough Reality, Paranormal Perception, The Hurricane Hour, Angel's Lighthouse, Mysterious Realms, and of course our very own Late Night in the Midlands. So when you think of a network that takes an interest in everything, think of a network that covers everything. The LNM Radio Network, exploring the truth and exposing the lies day and night. For the full lineup on times and dates of the shows we generate, go to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com and click the On-Air Schedule tab at the top of the website. We want to stick around and continue to bring you the best guests and the best shows from around the globe with the best information. And we cannot do it without your support. So please, spread our content as much as you can and donate on the website by going to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com, and on the right side of the page you will see the donate buttons, and you can rest assured that every penny you donate goes to help the LNM Radio Network stay on the air and expose the world one truth. Is it possible to read a person's thoughts? Can we implant thoughts also? Is there evidence of the existence of God? Does USGS records show increases in earthquakes due to nuclear testing? Author Jose Collazo says yes, and he has the proof in his 3 books titled America's New Slavery, fMRI Technology, America's New Slavery Behind the Scenes and Update, God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and much more. Researched under the Freedom of Information Act and other sources, Jose Collazo has the proof to most of his claims and is investigating others. You can get copies of his books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or www.xlibris.com. That's www.xlibris.com. Or you can click the book banner on the main page right next to the chat room on www.latenightinthe-midlands.com. Get your copy now. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. Check out Crystal's TLC. Hit the Avon link to view a full line of 100% guaranteed Avon products. See and order their specialty scented, long-burning soy candles And while you're at it, check out their other great products from tie-dye to incense. At some point, your power may go out, and Crystals TLC has you covered there too. I have been in the same house with others when power is out and water is not running, and let me tell you, it not only gets dark at night, but the odors become very present. That's why Crystals TLC's unscented and scented candles are perfect to use now or keep on hand in case of an emergency. Their candles are produced especially from Crystals TLC and come in a wide variety. You can order directly from the website at www.crystalstlc.com and bring peace of mind and beauty into your life. www.crystalstlc.com.
Mother, do you think they'll drop the bomb? Mother, do you think they'll like this song? Mother, do you think they'll try to break my balls? Mother should have built the wall. Mother, should I run for president? Should I trust the government? Mother, will they put me in the firing line?
All right, we are back, and absolutely before its time, Pink Floyd, that says it all right there. Just unbelievable, but thought it was fitting for tonight because tonight we've got Dr. Scott McQuate joining us, and he'll be with us in just a moment, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him beforehand. 347-989-1012. That is the number to call in. You can also call in using Skype, by the way, and you do have to press 1 so we know you want to come on the air, whether you use Skype or the call-in number. The website, latenightinthemidlands.com. Become a member and be informed, and by all means inform others. And don't forget, get your subscriptions to Late Night in the Midlands and become a Late Night in the Midlands insider. Plenty of benefits to that. The first step, become a member of the website, and you can learn more about that. And I'm going to get something up on the main page this weekend, so people keep checking back. And so if you're not a member yet, you probably don't know what the heck I'm talking about. And I really don't want to take the time to explain it all. So the best bet, become a member of the website, and you can find out. But, right now, if you subscribe, it's only $3 a month. If you wait until March 6th, it will be $5. So you could save yourself a couple dollars by doing it now. And, that's how we're going to keep this network and this radio program alive because it's important. 5 years now, almost. We're just about at our fifth 5-year point here. When I started this, it was, I was doing these little video things, and it was Mike's Corner. That's what it was, and then, I got the idea of Late Night in the Midlands, and here we are almost, just about 5 years later. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest and what we're going to be talking about tonight. The irony of living at this time in history is that the more technologically advanced we become and the more information we accumulate, the fewer answers to life's truly important questions we obtain. If you feel that something is increasingly wrong in the world and you've been disappointed at every turn in your quest for answers to the mysteries that surround us, don't be discouraged. My guest says you can know the truth. Dr. McQuate is an author and lecturer that knows firsthand that the truth necessary for humanity's freedom has been intentionally hidden by those who have manufactured your reality. The word matrix is not just the name of a movie, he says, but a word also used 5 times in the Bible. And from the time you came through the matrix, your understanding of the world around you has been viciously programmed. For more than a decade, Dr. McQuate has been piecing together the fragments of a lost puzzle that holds the key to your freedom. He has discovered a secret repository of ancient information hidden within the Bible and beneath layers of other ancient languages unrecognized by scholars for a millennium. And he's here tonight to talk about that with us. And we will take your questions or comments as we move along here in the program at 347-989-1012. So with that being said, everyone, please welcome Dr. Scott McQuate back to Late Night in the Midlands. Hello. How are you?
Hi, Michael. Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. We got such a great response the last time you were on the program. I thought that we needed to bring you back, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now. It'd be, good to make some sense of it all.
Well, let's see if we can do that tonight. Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for taking the time out to be with us. I guess I'd kind of like to start off with maybe Planet X. There's been a lot of talk about that, and I know a lot of my listeners have been contacting me, and they want to know the truth. They want to, get to the bottom of this once and for all. Is there really a Planet X, or is there not a Planet X? And I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Well, that's one of the things that I've studied for many years, and it's becoming increasingly of interest to the masses, and there's a reason for that. Planet X is not something that just came about as a topic within the last, 10 or 20 years. This celestial body is something that was spoken of by most of the ancient cultures. And whether you want to look to the Hebrew culture and or the Colburn Bible, for instance, where they speak of it as the Great Destroyer, or you want to look at the Hindu culture, who spoke of it as Kali, which is actually Hebrew, where the Hebrew word Kala comes from, which means to destroy, or you want to look to the Hopi Indians, who called it the Red Kachina, or the Sumerians, who called it Nibiru, or the Bible itself that speaks of it as wormwood. There are many, many cultures that were around long before the Bible and long before our culture who spoke about this celestial body. And what's really interesting, Michael, is that all of these cultures developed independently of one another in different parts of the world at different times. And yet they still spoke about this event, the celestial body coming and causing great chaos to the earth and the inhabitants of the earth. So is it real? Absolutely, it is real. And NASA did discover it. I shouldn't say discover it. That's a misnomer. They actually spotted it back in 1983. Yeah, they spotted it in 1983, and they called it Planet X. And like so many other things that the government's aware of, they cover it up because they don't want there to be mass hysteria. Because when there's mass hysteria, that means the people are not controllable, and that means the flow of commerce is interrupted. And that's the primary goal, is to keep the flow of commerce going, because that's the thing that fuels all of these governments around the world. And they don't want that to be hindered. But yes, it's absolutely real.
You think that's why the economy hasn't crashed yet? They keep printing money to keep it going? I mean, it's my understanding through some of the quote-unquote experts that I've talked to that this thing is nearby. And I've actually been checking out this observatory in the Antarctic, and we've seen some funny stuff. There's like a spot, you know, and it looks like there's something in front of the sun there. So, you know, there's a lot of fingers pointing towards it being pretty close to that time.
Right. The South Pole Telescope was no small endeavor. They spent millions of dollars airlifting that massive telescope to that location. And the reason is because that's where Planet X is coming from. That's why you hear a lot of reports, for instance, from Australia, of people seeing this planet. Pardon me, because it's coming from the southern hemisphere. And you know, there's so many people online, for instance, who insist that there are no pictures, there are no videos, there's no proof. Where's the proof? All somebody has to do is spend just a few minutes online, and you can see video after video of this strange anomaly and these pictures of this other planet. It's absolutely there. And one of the most telling pieces of evidence that we have that lets us know that it's there are the geological events that are happening all around the world, the crazy weather patterns. You know, we've got tsunamis and hurricanes, tornadoes, we've got volcanic eruptions, we've got earthquakes, all kinds of things, all of which have increased dramatically over the last 10 to 20 years. There's no doubting it. Just go to the Geological Society's website, and you can see they show the pattern of these things increasing in intensity and
not to mention the fireballs that have been bombarding us.
You mean from the sun, the coronal mass ejection?
Yes. The meteorites that came through. You know, Russia got nailed. Cuba had it. They've got videos in Cuba. I think Florida and San Francisco and a few different places that have spotted these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the prophecies in the Bible is strange events in the sky. And one of the primary parables that really is talking about these strange celestial events is the parable that Jesus gave of the fig tree. And I don't know if you know that. I wrote a small book about this called The Fig Tree Parable, Uncovered, and it talks about the real meaning of this parable. Yeah, people think that it has to do with Israel or, you know, the sacrifice in the temple and things like this. But what he was really referring to was this planet, and furthermore, he was talking about the orbs that are being seen around the skies around the earth. And all of these strange occurrences in the sky are part of the prophecies that were spoken of long before we existed. If people just need to start paying attention. People are very, very consumed with their jobs and their families and the things that they do every day, and they need to really start waking up and listening to what's really happening. And the reason they need to pay close attention is because they're not going to see this on CBS or NBC or ABC or MSNBC or any of these television programs. They're not going to outline all of these things. And this is why people need to make it their goal to just pay attention and to delve into this and research it themselves, because there's a whole world of information out there that's not being delivered over the television sets.
Yeah, and I get, when I talk about Planet X, I get some who will message me and say, you're a fearmonger. It's like I'm a fearmonger because I'm trying to get to the truth. I mean, I believe that thing's out there, but I've not had any solid evidence of where it is and how far away, we are from dealing with, the full power of this thing. So, I want to know. So I look into it.
And that's right. And that's what we need to do. This is, think of the logic of that statement. People say you're a fearmonger. Well, would you rather be a little scared and know what's happening and be able to prepare, or would you just rather stick your head in the sand and not know anything? That's where America's at right now. That's just how most people are. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I'd rather just go on with my life and be ignorant about things, because ignorant bliss is much more fun than having a full knowledge of what's going on. That's how we are.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've had some people say, well, I don't believe the information that guy says because he's selling survival gear on his website. And I'm thinking, well, let's think about that for a minute. If I really believe that this event is coming, and I know that what I have here will help other people, why not sell it on your website? You're offering it to people. I mean, so they try to make the most petty claims, anything to keep their head in the sand and not have to deal with the issue at hand.
Right. That's how most people are, because when you know the truth, you have a responsibility to deal with the truth. And people don't want that. They don't want to add something to their plate. They want to pretend. They want to, pretend that it's not real, that it's just another, like Y2K or something like that, or one of these false predictions of the end of the world that we've seen recur over the last, several centuries that have not been true. And this is another point I should bring up at this time. There have been a lot of people over the years, pastors, self-proclaimed prophets, and others who talk about the end of the world, and none of those predictions have ever come true. And this is, in my opinion, and I have reasons to believe this. This is why the 2012 date was so widespread, was so prominent in the media, because they wanted people to think that this was going to happen December 21st, 2012. It was on the History Channel. It was on the Discovery Channel. It was on every channel, the documentary channel. It was on all over the Internet, and books were written about it. Why? 2012, December 21st, because they knew that was not the day that this was going to happen. Now that people have it so ingrained in their minds that Planet X is connected to that date, they think that Planet X itself is a fallacy, is a myth, because 2012, December 21st, came and went and nothing happened. So people, in their black and white thinking, just toss out the baby with the bathwater. And that is the biggest mistake that they can make. All the
That's
talk about it. And it will happen. And, there's a reason for all of the things happening, the coronal mass ejections from the sun. You can generally measure every 11 years the CMEs, these solar flares, get longer and they get more intense. And every 11 years they subside and they decrease in intensity and in size. Well, for at least the last decade, these solar flares, these coronal mass ejections in the sun have gotten longer and they've become more intense. So don't let anybody tell you that the Earth is heating up because you use hairspray or you drive an automobile that puts out exhaust. The reason the Earth is getting hotter is because the sun is getting hotter. And the reason the sun is getting hotter is because what is in front of this planet is a big Oort cloud. It just means a big, massive cloud of dust and debris. And as it gets closer to us, it tends to push this Oort cloud toward the center of our solar system, meaning closer to the sun. And it acts as an aerosolized can on a match head. Say you light a match and you spray a can of aerosolized something or other on this. It's going to make it flare out. This is what's happening to our sun. And in the process, the Earth is getting hotter as well. So there are many, many pieces of evidence for people who really care, for people who really want the truth. But for those who just would prefer to stick their head in the sand, there's any number of excuses why not to believe it. So,
and you're absolutely right about Planet X being linked to December 21st, 2012. I don't know how many people had said to me, December 21st, 2012 came and went, no Planet X. And I would laugh and say, well, who told you that had anything to do with Planet X? Because it didn't.
Well, that was, the Mayans did talk about that date. They did. As a matter of fact, they found a second reference to that date also in the last few months at the base of one of the temples they were excavating. So that date is significant. But what the Mayans were talking about was the end of a Baktun. A Baktun is an era of time. It's just a span of time. They said that on that date we would end one Baktun and we would enter into another Baktun. But that was not connected, it was not meant to be actually connected to Planet X or Wormwood or the Great Destroyer or whatever you want to call this planet. So that was a big ploy on the part of the media and the governments and other factions that wanted people to, in their simple way of thinking, to connect that planet to that date. So when it came and went, they would discount the planet in its entirety and go on with their lives, and things would go back to normal. So hopefully people will wake up, And the reason people still show an interest in this planet is because they know deep down inside there is something significant happening, and there is something very, very wrong with the world. And you can't discount all the Earth events that are taking place. They know deep down in their spirit that something is going on, and that's why they still show an interest in this.
That's right. They don't want to accept it, though. And I'll tell you, it is hard to accept it. Even knowing what I know today, I still go outside and I look at the sky and I think, I just can't imagine it, the world being in such turmoil. But it would seem like it's around the corner. I mean, there's a lot of signs here. I mean, we could go weeks talking about this, the underground bases, the constant war for resources, no less, Homeland Security, getting all these billions of bullets that they've been stocking away, and the freeze-dried foods and the seed banks that they have. I mean, there's just so much that points towards they're preparing for something.
Right. You see, what they're preparing for is called a bull. It's spelled B-U-L. I just wrote a book about this called The Tribulation. And in the Tribulation, I talk about what is happening right now. The Bible calls what we're going through the tribulation. And Christians all around the world have heard this term. Even people who aren't Christians have heard this term. It's just a common term, the tribulation. And, pardon me, and they think of it as a time of persecution and hard times, etc. But the real reason that they call it the tribulation is because it is the third bull, B-U-L. B-U-L, and this is why the word tri is in that word, tribulation, meaning three, okay? The word bull is a Canaanite word. It's an ancient Canaanite word, which means war and fighting. It's also a Sumerian word, which means to light a fire, to kindle, and to ignite. Okay? And it also is the time which the Hebrew scribe or the Jewish rabbis said was the time that was the same as their time, which they called Kishvan. Kishvan is the time that occurred immediately before the destruction of the world. Okay? And this has happened 2 times before. In my paper, Cinderella and Other Tales of the Fairies, I talk about the secret hidden story in Genesis chapter 2 that hides the story of the earth's destruction by fire. It's never been told before. That's the first destruction. The second destruction of the world, we are told, is in the flood, when the flood occurred. Now, most people think that's the first destruction of the world, but that is not true. That's the second destruction, or the second bull, B-U-L, okay? And we are entering the time that precedes the third bull, or destruction, which is why the Bible calls it the Tribulation. Now, you won't hear a pastor or preacher or anybody tell you these things because they don't know these things. These are discoveries I've made, and I've made them with the help of the Creator, and I'm very thankful for that. But I'm telling these things to people now because it's time for them to know. Before this, it wasn't time for them to know. In the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 4, it says, Daniel was told to seal up the book until the time of the end, when knowledge would increase. And this is the time when that book is being opened. And the question I have for people is, if that book was sealed up, in other words, if the truth was shut up 2,600 years ago in Babylon, when those words were written in the book of Daniel, what has the world been learning during this time? And this is a very important question to be answered. In other places in the Bible, like in Isaiah 29:10, it says that there's been a deep sleep that has been poured out upon people. In 2 Thessalonians 2:11, it says that there would be in the end times there would be a strong delusion that the masses, literally is what it says, the masses would be handed over to, that would cause them to believe a lie. It doesn't say that Americans would be handed over to it. It doesn't say that Canadians would be, or Russians, or Ethiopians, or anybody else. It says everybody. It says the masses would be handed over to this strong delusion. The word strong there is the word energeia in the Greek, which is where we get the word energy. And it literally means something to which everybody is turned over to. So, when one group is pointing their finger at the other group, the Muslims or the Christians or the Hindus or the agnostics or the atheists or whoever, we all need to understand something very, very important. And that is, there has been a concerted effort for thousands of years to hide the truth from humanity. I'm here to teach people what that truth is. I don't care if people listen to me. I don't care. But what I do care about is that those who want the truth are able to have it. And I'll give it to them. This is what I do. This is what I've done for almost 14 years now. And this is why the figure Jesus in the Bible said that in order for us to be free, in order for people to be free, we must know the truth. He didn't say you must understand scientific thought. He didn't say you must become a Christian. He didn't say you must do anything except know the truth. And then he gave us a miniature blueprint as to how we can know that truth. Because it doesn't come just by, watching TV or getting online and doing a Google search or something. It comes with a concerted effort. And he said, this is how he said to do it. He said, ask, and it shall be given unto you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened unto you. And most people have heard that, but most people don't know what it means. All three of those words, ask, seek, and knock in the Greek, literally mean, they carry with them the idea of constant, persistent, intrepid seeking. And the reason that he told us that we have to intrepidly look for the truth is because he knew that even at that time, thousands of years ago, that there had already been a concerted effort by those known as the scribes and the Pharisees and the politicians and other people, bankers and others, to hide the truth. Because the only way they can rule us and keep us enslaved is by causing us to not know the truth. They rule by deceit. So the truth is the key. The truth is the key component to our freedom. And that's why I invite people to the inner circle, and I write and I research like a madman because there is a whole world. Trust me when I tell you, there is a whole wealth of information that's been buried beneath the ancient texts for thousands of years. Nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it.
Well, we definitely want to learn that truth, as much of it as we can tonight. I've got a question about HAARP when we come back. I got to take a break here, Scott, so hang on there with me for a moment, and we'll get much deeper. So, folks, we're trying to get to the answers, and we talk to all kinds of different people on this program about their expertise, and Dr. Scott McQuate is going to hit us with quite a bit tonight. So get ready, because it should get much, much, much more interesting. So Planet X, it's real according to many. Next week I'm going to have Marshall Masters on the program as well. I've got Gordon James Giannotto who will be joining us next week as well. You asked for truth on Planet X. I'm trying to get it. This is Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Is there proof of God's existence in our government's records? Author Jose Collazo brings his years of research into this stunning question to light in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more. Touching on little-known government projects such as the Remote Viewers Program and Active Auroral Research Program, Collazo has uncovered some amazing discoveries through his research and use of the Freedom of Information Act. From uncovered information on the Ark of the Covenant to connections between natural disasters and nuclear testing, experience this revealing look into our government's obscure and hidden work. Discover how new and experimental technologies may change our world forever and uncover monumental proof and answers to mankind's greatest questions in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more.
Hello, this is Michael Vera for CureShop.com with products endorsed by Dr. Leonard Horowitz, including Liquid Dentist, a one-stop defense system for not only your mouth, but your whole body. This unprecedented product aggressively attacks the critters that cause oral diseases using concentrated microfine silver plus oxygen and minerals to help reverse tooth decay and gum diseases, helping repair your teeth and gums naturally. Then, by swallowing this amazing and good-tasting tooth and gum saver, you actually get a natural, nutritional immunization against more than 1,000 strains of oral bacteria and viruses when you swallow. Liquid Dentist is awesome for boosting natural immunity. Imagine your teeth feeling hygienic clean and super smooth for up to 3 days after each use. Swish with it 3 minutes or more after brushing and flossing. Gargle to freshen and protect your throat, and then swallow Liquid Dentist. Wow, what a great idea. It's all natural, healing, and protective. Dr. Horowitz developed Liquid Dentist based on emerging science from England showing a 20-second exposure to medical-grade ozone kills germs deep within decay, even down to the nerve. Then highly concentrated mineral mouth rinsing can remineralize your teeth and harden them even harder than they were originally. This way, teeth can be saved and not drilled away or lost due to decay or tooth fracture. Plus, Liquid Dentist kills periodontal germs and leaves your breath fresh and teeth feeling professionally clean for days. Go to liquiddentist.net to learn more, or go to cureshop.com. That's cureshop.com. CURESHOPPE.com to order your supply of Liquid Dentist today, or call toll-free 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Call now to save your smile. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. The LNM Radio Network covers it all with great shows like Tough Reality, Paranormal Perception, The Hurricane Hour, Angel's Lighthouse, Mysterious Realms, and of course our very own Late Night in the Midlands. So when you think of a network that takes an interest in everything, think of a network that covers everything. The LNM Radio Network, exploring the truth and exposing the lies day and night. For the full lineup on times and dates of the shows we generate, go to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com and click the On-Air Schedule tab at the top of the website. We want to stick around and continue to bring you the best guests and the best shows from around the globe with the best information. And we cannot do it without your support. So please, spread our content as much as you can and donate on the website by going to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com, and on the right side of the page you will see the donate buttons, and you can rest assured that every penny you donate goes to help the LNM Radio Network stay on the air and expose the world one truth. One and a truth. One and a truth. Okay, we are back. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and, well, if I was king for just one day, I would give it all away, too. Might as well. It's not going to do you any good unless you can eat it. That's what I'm hearing. So, hey, 347-989-1012 is the number to call in, and we'll take questions or comments as we move along here in the program, if you have any. You can also post your questions, private message in the chat room over on latenightinthe-midlands.com. Just make sure you PM them, because otherwise I'll lose them in the chat talk, and I'm not going to search and fish them out. So with that being said, Dr. Scott McQuate is my guest, and we're going to get back to it now. All right, Scott, what about HAARP? I mean, some will say, well, the weather and all these changes we're seeing are due to HAARP. I mean, just about everything under the sun is being blamed on HAARP.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard about HAARP. I've done a little bit of research about it, but it's like so many other things. I do believe that they have technology that they can manipulate the weather, and I'll go as far as to say they have technology that they can use to manipulate people's thinking. There are many technologies that we're not aware of. Even if we hear about them, we're not aware of the full extent to which they can be used to manipulate people. But yeah, I think they do that, and it's only it's only one facet of their control. They manipulate all kinds of things to make things appear to be prophetic, for instance. Okay? People need to really realize, and especially those who are religious-minded, that when you see a fulfillment or a seeming fulfillment of prophecy in our day and age, those things are being orchestrated here on earth. When you see, like, for instance, Israel becoming a nation, people think that was a fulfillment of prophecy. That was done by man. The many things that are happening in our world today, the political changes, the financial climate, the droughts and the famines and the disease, and all of these things that are talked about as being part of the end times, these are largely constructed by those who control our world. Because those who control our world, unbeknownst to most people, are the same ones who masquerade as God. Now, and Jesus warned about this. He said, there are those among you who are of the synagogue of Satan. And he said, they call themselves Jews, but they are not. They are of the synagogue of Satan. Why that is significant is the same reason that it's significant that Israel is at the center of all the news and all of the political ongoings in our world. There's a logogram in the Sumerian, and those of you who know my research and have read my works know that I Sumerian language, because that was the first written language. And one of the logograms in that language is spelled G-U. And it means many different things, but it's no mistake that it means a bank, banks. But the interesting thing about it is that it is pronounced God. It's like the French. Sumerian is a lot like the French language in that they leave off the final consonant. And so G-U, which we would pronounce Jew, is literally in the Sumerian language pronounced God. And these are the ones who, as Yesu or Jesus said, are not God, but are of the synagogue of Satan. And what he was referring to was the planet Saturn. And this is why the country of Israel is represented, is really one of the only countries, or the only major country that's represented by a six-pointed star, because Saturn itself is the only planet that is represented by a six-sided hexagon on its north pole. This is the reason that Jesus said in that passage that they are of the synagogue, meaning the home or the temple of Satan, because Satan is just an old way of saying Saturn. It's a reference to the planet Saturn, and that's why they sound very similar. But these are the ones who are manufacturing a lot of the things that are happening, and they do it through the control of the media, the financial world, the religious aspects of our world, the religions specifically. This is why Christianity is called Judeo-Christianity. And I don't want people to take this the wrong way. This is not a treatise against Jews by any means, but there are those who say they are, just as Jesus said, I'm just quoting him, but are of another place, meaning they are literally from Saturn. And if you get into my writings, you'll understand full well what the ancients were trying to warn us about. This has been a long-term concerted effort to infiltrate I hope people are sitting down when I say this, but to infiltrate the genetics of humanity. And they've done it, and this is why people act crazy. People are lunatics these days. I mean, even in the little things, people don't listen. People do stupid things. People make no sense at all in their behavior. They do things.
You're not kidding.
To themselves, right? If anybody's honest with themselves, they see it all around them. The way people drive, the way people talk, the way people carry on in conversations, it's not linear. People don't generally have linear conversations. They're usually thinking about what they're going to say or what's going on tomorrow or what their next errand is they have to run or what they're going to buy next while they're standing there talking to you when they should be in the moment. People are not in the moment. People's minds are fragmented because there's been a genetic modification that has gone on for a long, long time. And the technologies that we have today, largely with the computer screens, laptop screens, the tablets that we use, the cell phones that we use, the televisions that we're always staring into, the iPads, the iPods, on and on and on. These are all impregnated with, all of them are impregnated with the same thing. It's called phosphorus. Those membranes contain phosphorus. And the light that carries the data that come through those screens has to go through that membrane of phosphorus. And people are saying, well, so what? What does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you what it means. Phosphorus is the Latin translation of the Greek word for the planet Venus, which they called Lucifer. Phosphorus is the same as what the ancients called Lucifer. And this was the rebel the arch enemy of the Creator, who many would, incorrectly call God. But this was the enemy of the Creator. And before phosphorus is oxygenated, after phosphorus is oxygenated, in other words, after it reaches an oxygenated environment such as the world, it becomes what we call a phosphate. That oxygen turns it into a phosphate. And the reason that is very significant is for two reasons. A phosphate is six-sided. It's a hexagon. Just like the star that flies in the flag of Israel, just like the hexagon that is on the North Pole of Saturn. And it is one of two primary pieces that make up your DNA. The other is ribose, or ribonucleic acid. And people do not want to hear what I am going to say. They don't like it. It makes them uncomfortable, and they think it's absurd. But the truth is always stranger than fiction. And what I'm telling you comes from the ancient texts, not some new technology or new scientific discovery. This comes from the ancient texts, and it's what I've discovered beneath the language and between the lines. It's been covered by those that the Bible refers to in Jeremiah 8:8 as the lying scribes. And that is that piece of genetics was unlawfully placed into the genetics of humanity. That's what makes up our DNA. And it has been there as a parasite. Literally. I mean this in the most literal sense.
Placed by whom?
Well, those same ones that Asu warned us about that would do this. And this is why he said, beware of the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees, because a little leaven puffs the whole loaf. And the leaven he's talking about is this piece of genetic material. And it's acted as a parasite. A parasite needs a host. And the kind of host that a parasite needs in order to feed and to grow and to thrive is called nucleic acid. And this is why in ancient times, in what the Sumerians called the Eden and what the Bible calls Eden, they engaged in this genetic manipulation for the purpose of fusing that molecule, which the Bible calls molek in shrouded fashion, to the other piece of our genetics, which the Bible calls the rib of Adam. And that word rib is simply a play on the word ribonucleic acid, which is the other molecule which makes up human DNA. And DNA is not a good thing. DNA is what is talked about in the Bible. It says that Dan, which was in this allegory, was a son of Jacob, whose, if you recall, Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Dan was said to be a serpent in the way and an adder in the path. And the reason it says that very specifically and uses those words is because in the Greek, the word Thera, S-E-R-A, means 6, and the word penta means 5. Serapenta, or serpent, therefore, is simply another shrouded reference to our DNA, which is made up of a 6-sided molecule called phosphate and a 5-sided molecule called ribonucleic acid, which acts as the host. And his name, the name of Israel or Jacob's son, was Dan, because Dan is a perfect anagram of DNA. And all of the scribes and the Freemasons and the Illuminati use demotic text when they wrote all of these things, and still use it today. And demotic text involves the removal of certain letters and the use of codes and ciphers, including anagrams. That's what they use all the time, and it's riddled all throughout the ancient text. So what this is telling us is that DNA was unlawfully created by the use of the rib or the nucleic acid of Adam, which acted as the host for that parasite molecule the Bible calls molek, and it is in the way. Like it says, Dan would be an adder in the path because it was added. It doesn't mean a snake called an adder. It means those who added. It was the adder, those who added that molecule. It would be a serpent in the way, meaning a serapenta in the way, and an adder in the path, meaning DNA is an obstacle. And this DNA needs to be dismantled. The outgrowth of this DNA is the human body. It's the temple. And this is the real meaning behind the story of Jesus walking through the rooms of the quote-unquote temple with the disciples, and he said, in the end of time, in the end times, there will not be one stone upon another. And what he's talking about is the stone of the phosphate and the stone of the ribose, which will be dismantled. And furthermore, what he was really referring to was the Great Pyramid. It wasn't the temple in Jerusalem, as they would like you to think. It was literally the Great Pyramid at Giza. And he was talking about the dismantling of the phosphate, which, if you recall, I told you was 6-sided. And this is why the Great Pyramid at Giza also is 6-sided. It has a base, 4 sides, and a top that is missing the capstone, giving it a 6th side. And these same ones who modified the genetics of humanity to bring about the chaos that we have today, so they can, ride in on white horses and provide solutions for the chaos that they've created. This is where we get the phrase ordo ab chaos, used by the secret societies. They also were the same ones who built that monument. And that monument is the Great Pyramid at Giza. And that monument of the pyramid is also spoken of using different aliases in the Bible, like Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai and others. It's speaking of the same Great Pyramid. And that Great Pyramid, which represents that molecule in our genetics, will be dismantled. And it will happen soon. We can look forward to the Great Pyramid being destroyed. This is one of the many things I've discovered by researching these things that you're not going to hear about in the news, you're not going to read about in any book or anything, but this is what's going to happen. And that destruction of that great monument is simply a symbolic reference of what will soon also happen to the DNA of humans.
Now, are you talking about literal destruction of the Great Pyramid?
Yes. Yeah, in the most literal sense.
Because, they've been making those kind of gestures that they want to demolish it.
Yep, I know. Now they are. I've been teaching these things for years, and it's going to come about. It will come about. But the reason it's going to come about is not for political gain or for religious reasons or anything else. It must be done because it represents something that was added to human DNA that was done unlawfully, and that must be taken out. And this is in my book, The Tribulation, I go into detail about all this stuff, and it's the same thing that in the book of Revelation we hear spoken of when it says, I saw an angel take up a great millstone and cast it into the sea, and that act was what destroyed Babylon. But Babylon is not a good thing. Babylon is not a good thing, never has been a good thing. This is the same, I talk about, how it's the same as the Egyptian Jed pillar found at the temple in Dendera. It's the same as the phosphate. This is why in the New Testament it says that God requires repentance of all men. What that really means is not getting on your knees and saying, I ask Jesus into my heart, I repent of my sins, okay, I'm done, I go on with my life, and everything's, copacetic. That's not what it means. It's one of the lies of Christianity, one of the many lies of Christianity. What repentance means is that we need to go back to the penta. We need to go back to our original state where we were comprised of the rib. If you recall, I was talking about how the ribose or ribonucleic acid is the part of our DNA that is five-sided in the Greek, which means penta. 5 is penta, as in serapenta. So when the Bible says that we are all required to repent, it means that we are required to go back to that original state and give back what was stolen. That is one of the stones of fire that I believe it's either Ezekiel or Isaiah talks about. That it says Lucifer walked among the stones of fire and made each one of them a covering. And that all sounds great, but what it really means is the phrase "walked among" literally translates as to rob or to steal. This information, or these genetics, or the information thereof, was stolen. It was literally stolen. We see this in Revelation 12 when it says the woman was travailing to be delivered, and it's because she was turgid or full of the knowledge of these things, and brought it to this place. Actually, took it to Saturn first, and brought it to this place in the location called Eden, or what the Sumerians call the Eden, which was basically a massive set of petri dishes where man was actually brought to, and it has to be undone. Lucifer has been given a time. Humankind has been given a time to realize that what the Freemasons and the Illuminati call the great work of this building of the temple of man, is not good. It is not right. It is unrighteous. It is unwholesome. It is unholy, and it will be undone. Just like the Great Pyramid that represents that great work will also be undone. And this is all part of the reason for the passing of Nibiru. And I talk about that a lot in my writings. And so we can expect these things to happen. But what I want to make clear to people is this is not something to be afraid of. Unless, of course, you are evil. Unless, of course, you are Luciferian and you love the system of commerce, the legal term for which is intercourse. If you love these things and you're addicted to these things and you want to stay and remain, like it says in Isaiah 47, the woman wanted to stay and grind and burn, meaning she wanted to stay in a system of intercourse. It says in that chapter, so she would always have a husband and would never be without a child. If people have that mindset, well, then they will somehow, through the rapture or through other things that will happen, be able to remain in this system. But those who want to return to the Father, to the first estate, like the prodigal sons the Bible talks about, who are welcomed back by the Father with loving arms, will be able to do that. But it requires repentance. It requires the dismantling of the temple. It's just like when Elijah left in the story in the Old Testament. He was taken up by a great whirlwind. When he left his mantle, it says. He left his mantle to Elisha. In other words, Elijah was dismantled. Okay? And this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. There will be a dismantling. And those who want to do as Jesus said, he said, or excuse me, this is in, I believe, Deuteronomy, where it says, seek the old paths, the old ways, for therein is the good, or the old paths, it says, for therein is the good way, where you will find rest for your souls. Jesus talked about that too. And so, if people are tired and they know that the way that we've embraced, this way of commerce, this way of the bankers, okay, those who have created the banks, those who have created the banks of the veins and the arteries, inside of which they have controlled the spirit. And the ancients called knew that the creator, the true creator, was represented by water. Okay? His name was Anu, or An. And they stole something from him. They stole part of the essence of him, or knowledge of how to create part of that essence. And since that time have created banks to control it. Not only control the flow of commerce, but also to create the system of intercourse. And the legal term for commerce is intercourse. So when they created the human body by creating banks that control the essence, the veins and the arteries and the skin and the tissue and the sinew and the bones that hold the marrow, the banks, they've also controlled the flow of commerce, which steals life, which steals energy, which harvests your work and the fruits of your labors and your wages through taxes and through usury, which was forbidden in the Bible. All of these things we come to think of as normal, but they are enslaving. This is because we live in the matrix that they created. Yeah.
You're right. So then, to get a better understanding here, then we really don't have any junk DNA. They they'll say junk DNA. Could that be maybe some type of extraterrestrial DNA?
Well, we have things in our DNA that we don't understand, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's junk. I think that, it's like a lot of things we don't understand. But they've added to it over and over and over. They still do. They do it constantly. Every time you see a pharmaceutical commercial on TV and they have the nice music going and they have the people laughing and hugging each other and throwing the Frisbee, all the while behind the scenes, they're saying, if you take this, your penis might fall off and your eyes might fall out and your head might, expand to the size of a watermelon. And they say all these things. They do it in such a way that people don't really hear it. They don't hear. All they do, they see the people laughing, and they see the Frisbee throwing, and the riding the bikes, and the nice music, and the nice scenery in the background. And they're sliding these things in, and they're perpetrating these things in, or on humanity, because this is another way of them to try to build. It's everything in our world is about the great work of the building of the temple. And it's done through genetics. And the system of commerce and religion and all these other things are simply outgrowths of that, which foster it, which enable them to keep us corralled and keep us placated and pacified, and enable them to go about doing what they want to do, all the while making us think that it's the right thing. But it's not. It's evil. It is utterly evil.
How have they gotten away with this for so many years? And I really hate to see the destruction of the Great Pyramid without finding out how that thing was built.
Well, first of all, the Great Pyramid was built by those who did this to us, as I said, and it represents the body. And if we read Genesis 2 and 3, we're told that the way that the human body was made it wasn't created or made like man was in Genesis chapter 1. It was molded. That's the Hebrew word. In Genesis 3 it says that the Lord God, meaning the lowered God, which is just a term for the rebellious Anunaki. Okay? I explain all of that in my books, but it's a hidden reference to those fallen ones, namely Lucifer, who was the feminine entity that rebelled, like the woman of Revelation 12 and many other entities throughout the Bible who are the same entity under the use of different pseudonyms or aliases. But he was molded, meaning he was pressed together through pressure. And if we look at that method of manufacturing the body and superimpose that over the building of the pyramid, then we can say that it was done the same way. It was done the same way. It was not done by a bunch of Israelites or Egyptian slaves hauling things up ramps and using levers and pulleys and whatnot, and sitting there with their copper tools and their other things, carving these and honing these stones. That is foolishness. That's ridiculous. Okay? And I'm just saying that is a lie. This was done with technology that we do not have. We cannot create a human body in that way, like they did, any more than we can create the Great Pyramid. Ask any architect, ask any builder, and they will tell you, we cannot do it. There's no way we could do that. That's an undertaking that we don't have the technology to do these days. Even in our high technology, we can't do it. It's because they used methods that we don't understand and we don't have access to. It was molded somehow through pressure and the same way that man was molded. And so, but it's not the largest pyramid, and there are literally thousands of pyramids around the world.
Now, is this actually to say that there was actually life on Saturn, or is this just really?
Yes, and that actually, Michael, that is actually the place where man was. Well, let me say this. If I would ask you, or if I lined up 1,000 different people, and I said, according to the Bible, let's say, where was man made? What do you think the answer would be? What would people say to that? People would say,
they would probably say God created man.
Yeah, and they would say in Eden. That's what
Yeah.
everybody I ask that question to says, that God made man in Eden. But that's not what the Bible even says. And you asked me a few minutes ago, how have they gotten away with this for so long? Well, they've gotten away with it by programming people to think and believe what they want them to think and believe. It's done through Platonic rhetoric, which is from Plato, which is what all the pastors learn in seminary, how to compile a 3-point sermon, how to use the fluctuation of your voice and the intonation to get people to listen to you. This is all Platonic rhetoric, which is passed down from Hermes or Thoth or Mercury, whatever you want to call him, and the Emerald Tablets. These are things that they know will enable them to manipulate people. And this is a perfect example. If I lined up 1,000 people, Christians, let's say, who think they know where man was made, they would all tell me, and they have. I've done this over and over again. They would say Eden, but the Bible doesn't say that. Now, how can millions of people believe that the Bible says man was made in Eden, but it doesn't say that? Because of the prominent doctrines that are just so prolific. The doctrines that are just programmed into people's minds are how they've gotten away with this. The Bible says in Genesis 3 that the Lord God placed the man that was made into Eden. But man was made in another place. And in order to know this, we have to do what the Bible says. It says, seek the old, meaning the ancient paths, for therein is the good way, meaning therein is the truth. And the oldest written language path is the Sumerian language, the cuneiform writing. And in that language, which uses logograms, which are pieces of words, like a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant, or like a vowel and a consonant. Okay, they can mean several different things, but they are very telling when it comes to understanding these things. And there are 2 logograms. One is Tur, T-U-R, which we would pronounce Tor, and the other one is Dis, D-I-S. Together, these logograms are pronounced tortoise. Okay? But the meaning, and I'll get to why that is in a second, but the meaning of these 2 logograms, T-U-R means the birth hut, and D-I-S means man. So Tordis means literally the birth hut of man. But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you know that Tordis literally means, in the Sumerian language, Saturn. So we can deduce that Tordis, or Saturn, was literally the birth hut of man. Man was literally created or conceived on Saturn and then brought to what we would call Eden, or the Eden, which is actually in western and southern Africa, which is on the same longitudinal line as the Great Pyramid at Giza, which makes perfect sense because that great monument is the monument that was built to represent man, the human body. So he was conceived
now, does
on
Mars
Saturn.
fit in at all?
Pardon me. Mars, I think that we inhabited Mars at one point in time. I think that there was a great battle. They found water on Mars. I think that was where we, at one time in the past, or our ancestors lived. Mars is tilted on its axis just a little bit, exactly like Earth is tilted on its axis also. And there's a reason for this. When a planet is tilted on its axis, it enables seasons. It enables various parts of the Earth to experience seasons. Primarily, it enables these parts of the Earth to experience the fluctuations of heat and cold. And the ones that did this, interestingly, are known by the name of the season that we call summer, which is characterized by that heat. And they're called the Sumerians. okay, which were the same as the fallen, or something. I shouldn't say the fallen. They were the same as the Anunnaki, and the Sumerians were the ones who tilted this Earth, just like Mars, on its axis to create the seasons. And the reason they needed this to be done was because they were the same ones who manufactured man. And they, in order to get this great work to get started, they needed the fluctuations of the heat and the cold to act as a catalyst, like a scientist or a geneticist in a scientific laboratory uses cold and heat and the modification of the temperature to get the whatever they're growing in their petri dishes to grow properly. This is why this was done, and this is why they're called Sumerians, because Sumer is the same as the season of summer, which they brought about when they did this. So, yeah, Mars was inhabited at one time, and I know these things are strange for people to hear when, after all, they're not in the history books, and they don't talk about it on these television shows and things. But this is
when
where
there's talk of life on other planets and that life visiting here on Earth, or even having something to do with where we are today, that don't sound strange to me. It really don't. I know that there's a lot going on out there.
Yeah. Now, the talk about genetic manipulation and things is coming about now in these end times. But these are not things that we've been taught growing up and in school. But it's not to say that they didn't know these things. They have intentionally covered them for a very long time. This is why Lucifer is referred to as the anointed cherub that covers, because Lucifer is the one throughout history who has covered all of these things so they would not be known to us. But just like it says in Daniel 12:4, the book is now being opened and these things are coming about. It's just very important that people understand that when you see these things about aliens and all this, you're not talking about aliens. You're talking about fallen angels. We're talking about those who rebelled from the Creator and took it upon themselves to arrogantly modify your genetics and put you into the situation or the estate, the genetic estate that you're in right now, unbeknownst to you, without your permission, without the Creator's permission. And they are the ones who also are raising themselves up to be God. And they will, in the near future, present themselves to humanity as God. And
well, I said this last night to our guest. They're going to find out that in 3,600 years, some things have changed down here, and we're not going to exactly welcome them as gods this time around.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't be so sure. I think one of the reasons that they're causing things to fall apart right now, the financial system all around the world, the world itself is falling apart. And the reason they're letting it go to this point is because people want a savior. People want someone to come in, ride in on the white horse, and do what the Freemasons and the Illuminati have said for a long time, and that is ordo ab chaos, to create order out of chaos. They want the solution. They want a savior. And people are so naive and just ignorant of the facts that when a celestial, an extraterrestrial presents themselves to humanity and has technology we don't, they'll jump on board like, it's the end of the world. It will be the end of the world, but like it's no tomorrow. They will go en masse.
It's like the government and Big Pharma. They create disease and then, hey, we've got the solution for you. Buy our pills.
Right. But the solution is not to board a ship and to escape, to go to another place. The solution is to humble ourselves to let the Father, to let the Creator take us back to His bosom and embrace us so we can once again be His sons and daughters and live as we once did. And I want to touch on what I said a few minutes ago about tortoise representing Saturn. And the reason this is so important is because, and we see in many cave drawings and ancient stone carvings and things, how they drew and carved turtles, flying turtles, okay? Turtles flying in the air, and turtles with wings, okay? And the reason this is because they were drawing things the best way they knew how. They were explaining them through their art the best way they knew how. And what they were trying to depict for us was saucers. A turtle, if you look at a turtle on its side, it looks like a dome, like a saucer. And this is why the ancients called Saturn tortoise, because the ships that come from Saturn are tortoise-shaped. And if you look at a turtle from a perspective of looking down on it, it also has 6 appendages. It has a head, a tail, and 4 legs, which also represents the 6 sides of the hexagon on Saturn and the 6 sides of the phosphate in our DNA. And that's what the ancients were trying to tell us, was that these flying tortoises, or turtles, were from Saturn. That's why the Sumerian logograms, tortoise, together mean Saturn. But what's interesting about that is in the Sumerian language, they use the same word for Saturn, which another logogram, which is Genna, Genna, that the Greeks used for hell. Genna in the Greek language means hell. Ask any theologian or pastor, they'll tell you the same thing. It means hell. And this is how things have gotten so, turned on its ear. Like it says in Isaiah 29:16, there will be men who turn, in ancient times, who turn things upside down to appear as the potter's clay. In other words, to change things from the very foundation in Eden. And that's what's happened. So that's what's going on. This, and the reason it's called hell, okay, is because that is a reference to the place of man's punishment. And the reason it's called hell is because it's a reference to the one who did this, who in Genesis is called the Nakash, the shining one. And the root of that word is Hellel, H-E-L-E-L. And the reason for Hellel, H-E-L-E-L.
Oh, okay.
And if you use demotic text like they all do in the secret societies, you remove one E and you have hell. And this is because it's a reference to Lucifer, the shining one, but it's because they put us into a state of helical, or helix. This is what our DNA is called, double helical. And this is what happened at that point in time when Adam's rib, or the RNA, was taken from him, to which they fused Molech, the molecule called phosphate, or Lucifer. And so this is what we have to be removed from. And this is really the story of when the Bible tells us that Yesu, or Jesus, went to hell after he was killed to minister to those who were there. That's why he came to earth, quite literally, because this is that place. And this is one other thing that has been turned around. They have tried to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, and they've done a good job of it by the programming of people's minds, making us to believe that this is more of a utopian state, whether you call it Atlantis or Shamana or Sumeria or America. This is an extension of the great work. This is the building of the great utopian state that they're trying to implement and basically put heaven on earth. but they're trying to make hell into heaven, and it won't ever work because they don't do it the proper way that were taught to do it by the Creator. They rebelled. And
I see.
If you read 2 Kings chapter 6, it talks about this also, when the sons of God wanted to build, so they each took themselves a beam, meaning literally a metaphor for a piece of genetic material. And when they were felling trees, which is a reference to Adam, because in Ezekiel 28, Adam is called a tree, and they were felling trees with axe heads. Axe heads. And the reason this is important is because the phrase axe head in the Sumerian language is represented by the logogram Jin, or Gen. It's spelled G-I-N or G-E-N. Okay? And this is what they were doing it with. They were using the Jin to modify the genetics of the tree Adam. And this is why the word axe head, which is spoken of in 2 Kings chapter 6, is the method or the thing they were using to fell or modify the tree Adam. And it's important to know that because the Jinn, as spoken of in several ancient cultures, spelled differently, like D-J-I-N-N or J-I-N-N in the Arabic language, for instance, were the demons, were the fallen angels. Okay? And this is why the word Genesis is used to describe this time in the first book of the Bible. Okay, Genesis. Isis is the Latin plural form of the word Esu. Esu, which is what Jesus' name really was, means to consume. This is why we have the story of the Last Supper, when he says, "Take my body in this bread and eat, take my blood in this wine and drink." This is why Esu in Latin means to consume. But the plural form of Esu is Isis, E-S-I-S. This is the real meaning of the word Genesis. The Jinn, or the Gen, okay, were creating many Isises out of one Isu, because Christ is called the first Adam in 1 Corinthians. And Adam is called the first Christ, and Christ was the second Adam in 1 Corinthians. And so the Gen were modifying the genetics unlawfully and cloning many Isises, meaning, or disciples, okay, meaning to cut from, disciple literally means to cut from, out of the blood of one Esu. And this is what the Sumerian texts tell us. They said the Son of God, whose name was actually Kingu, was killed or murdered, his arteries were split, and his blood was taken at the crossing, not on the cross like the Bible tells us, but at the crossing for the creation of the human body. Not to anoint humanity, like the biblical rendition says, but literally to create the human body for the Ijiji, meaning the jinn, to inhabit. And this is why we got to go back. We got to undo what's been done. So that's the real meaning of the word Genesis. It's telling us of the cloning that was going on in Eden, and it's hard for us to believe this. Many people, not people like you and I who research these things, but many people, it's difficult because we think that we just now, over the last 10 or 15, 20 years, have the technology to clone. But that's not true. They were doing this thousands and thousands of years ago in the Eden, or what the Bible calls Eden. So this is the real hidden story of humanity. And this is, I teach these things to all my students at the Inner Circle, and I want people to know these things because this is very important to undo the lies in which we've been steeped so we can actually be able to make the right decision to go back with the Creator when that time comes.
I see. All right, Doctor, hang on with us for a moment. We're going to take another break, and Then you and I will come back and we'll finish up. If anybody has any questions or comments, you're welcome to call in at 347-989-1012. Got to press 1 so we know you want on. You can call in Skype. This is Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network, and we'll be right back.
Is there proof of God's existence in our government's records? Author Jose Collazo brings his years of research into this stunning question to light in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more. Touching on little-known government projects such as the Remote Viewers Program and Active Auroral Research Program, Collazo has uncovered some amazing discoveries through his research and use of the Freedom of Information Act. From uncovered information on the Ark of the Covenant to connections between natural disasters and nuclear testing, experience this revealing look into our government's obscure and hidden work. Discover how new and experimental technologies may change our world forever and uncover monumental proof and answers to mankind's greatest questions in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more.
Hello, this is Michael Vera for CureShop.com with products endorsed by Dr. Leonard Horowitz, including Liquid Dentist, a one-stop defense system for not only your mouth, but your whole body. This unprecedented product aggressively attacks the critters that cause oral diseases using concentrated microfine silver plus oxygen and minerals to help reverse tooth decay and gum diseases, helping repair your teeth and gums naturally. Then, by swallowing this amazing and good-tasting tooth and gum saver, you actually get a natural, nutritional immunization against more than 1,000 strains of oral bacteria and viruses when you swallow. Liquid Dentist is awesome for boosting natural immunity. Imagine your teeth feeling hygienic clean and super smooth for up to 3 days after each use. Swish with it 3 minutes or more after brushing and flossing. Gargle to freshen and protect your throat, and then swallow Liquid Dentist. Wow! What a great idea. It's all natural, healing, and protective. Dr. Horowitz developed Liquid Dentist based on emerging science from England showing a 20-second exposure to medical-grade ozone kills germs deep within decay, even down to the nerve. Then highly concentrated mineral mouth rinsing can remineralize your teeth and harden them, even harder than they were originally. This way, teeth can be saved and not drilled away or lost due to decay or tooth fracture. Plus, Liquid Dentist kills periodontal germs and leaves your breath fresh and teeth feeling professionally clean for days. Go to liquiddentist.net to learn more, or go to CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com. CureShoppe.com to order your supply of Liquid Dentist today, or call toll-free 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Call now to save your smile. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. The LNM Radio Network covers it all with great shows like Tough Reality, Paranormal Perception, The Hurricane Hour, Angel's Lighthouse, Mysterious Realms, and of course our very own Late Night in the Midlands. So when you think of a network that takes an interest in everything, think of a network that covers everything. The LNM Radio Network, exploring the truth and exposing the lies day and night. For the full lineup on times and dates of the shows we generate, go to www.latenightinthemidlands.com and click the On-Air Schedule tab at the top of the website. We want to stick around and continue to bring you the best guests and the best shows from around the globe with the best information. And we cannot do it without your support. So please, spread our content as much as you can and donate on the website by going to www.latenightinthemidlands.com, and on the right side of the page you will see the donate buttons, and you can rest assured that every penny you donate goes to help the LNM radio network stay on the air and expose the world one truth. Is it possible to read a person's thoughts? Can we implant thoughts also? Is there evidence of the existence of God? Does USGS records show increases in earthquakes due to nuclear testing? Author Jose Collazo says yes, and he has the proof in his 3 books titled America's New Slavery, fMRI Technology, America's New Slavery Behind the Scenes and Update, God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and much more. Researched under the Freedom of Information Act and other sources, Jose Collazo has the proof to most of his claims and is investigating others. You can get copies of his books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or www.xlibris.com. That's www.xlibris.com. Or you can click the book banner on the main page right next to the chat room on www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Get your copy now. You're listening to the LNM Radio Network. Check out Crystal's TLC. Hit the Avon link to view a full line of 100% guaranteed Avon products. See and order their specialty scented, long-burning soy candles, and while you're at it, check out their other great products from tie-dyed to incense. At some point, your power may go out, and Crystal's TLC has you covered there too. I have been in the same house with others when power is out and water is not running, and let me tell you, it not only gets dark at night, but the odors become very present. That's why Crystal's TLC's unscented and scented candles are perfect to use now or keep on hand in case of an emergency. Their candles are produced especially from Crystal's TLC and come in a wide variety. You can order directly from the website at www.crystalstlc.com and bring peace of mind and beauty into your life. www.crystalstlc.com. Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network, and we got about another half hour to go here tonight. So, most times I go a full 3 hours. Some nights it'll be 2.5 hours. It depends. 347-989-1012. That's the number to call in if you have a question or a comment. There are no stupid questions, really. There is, but I mean, for the most part, there's not. www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Go on over, become a member, and be informed. And we're going to get back to it with my guest, Dr. Scott McQuate. And Scott, I guess I'm kind of curious as to how you were able to figure all this out. I mean, this must have took you a long time.
Well, I started doing this. Well, first of all, I grew up in the church. That was my thing. I was there every Wednesday and Sunday, and sang in a band and sang in choir and all these things, and taught, and went to Christian grade school and high school and college and seminary and on and on. And so I was acquainted with the Bible. But I always was asking questions about, the Bible, like, why were there two creations? Why was man created twice? and different things, and about the Ark of the Covenant and the Ark of Noah and different things. Never got answers. And that wears on a person after a while. And when you use the method, sure. And when you use the methods they teach you to find the answers for yourself, and you still can't find them, well, you start taking things seriously. If you're a truth seeker, if you really want to know the truth, and so back in the year 2000, the Father, the Creator, really orchestrated a series of events to kind of bring me to my knees, and I knew that it was Him. I had just finished my master's degree and was working on toward my PhD, and just I knew that it was Him. He took me to a place that I had to either mess up my whole life or humble myself to Him and be the man that He wanted me to be. And I chose the latter. And I fasted and I prayed and I asked Him to just show me the truth so I could teach it to other people, and that's what I've done since that time. And He helped me develop a proprietary method of exegesis where I take the cuneiform, the Sumerian cuneiform, and I look at the Bible through that lens. And by his mercy, he enabled me to develop that. And since that time, I have, I say this humbly, I have discovered a wealth of information by using the logograms of the Sumerian language when I put them up against the translation of the Bible. And it's just astounding. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's astounding. My students know it. People I teach and the people I've spoken to in public know it. It's mind-blowing. These things are not available anywhere else, and they're very liberating. And I love people. I love people who love the truth. And I just enjoy being around people who want to know the Father's plan for their lives and what He wants for people. It's the Sumerian language is the oldest written language that we know of, that we've ever found. And I took the verse in the Bible very seriously. It said, "Seek the old paths," meaning the ancient and enduring paths, "for therein is the good way, that you will find rest for your souls." And that language path has proven to be extraordinarily elucidating, and it's just phenomenal. I've spent literally tens of thousands of hours doing exegesis, meaning to uncover or interpret the language by using this method, and done it for years. And I've written, at this point, about a dozen books, and founded the Inner Circle at innercircle.us. I invite people to come. If you are an honest truth seeker, you're welcome to come, become an apprentice. I will teach you one-on-one. I've only scratched the surface tonight, and this is just a very small part of what I've uncovered. But the things are there for people who want to know them and are willing to put in the time and learn. So.
That's right, and I agree with you. It's so much more exciting to talk to somebody who is really seeking the truth and they have no blocks in their mind. I mean, I've had friends who are radical religious, and you cannot say anything outside of what they've been taught, the religious dogma end of things. And if you take that religious dogma and remove it, you understand things so much better.
Absolutely, Michael. I couldn't have said it better, man. One of the hard lessons I had to learn when I first started uncovering these things was that the truth, and this is hard for Christians to understand, but this is a fact. The truth is immiscible with Christianity, meaning it does not mix. It's like oil and water. I can't tell you how many friends who were good friends. We sang in a band together. We had Bible studies together. We went places together. All kinds of friends. Gone, lost. Not by choice, but because when these things come out, when the truth comes out, they are so contrary to the doctrines of Christianity upon which people have built their entire existence that they get scared. The stones, one by one, the stones of their foundation start to be removed, and their foundation starts to crumble, and they start to get scared. They don't realize the Creator is there to catch them. The truth is a good thing. The truth is not damaging. The truth is whole, unified. It is not divided like Christianity is with over, 30-some thousand denominations. That's the irony of it.
Last night I had a guest on last night. Sorry to interrupt, but I had a guest on last night, and I agreed with a lot of what he had to say, but he was going, by the Bible as he knew it, and he was talking about homosexuals and how, that's angering God and this and that, and I'm telling him, and he says, well, it's right here in the Scripture. And then he was saying how, God, destroyed somebody for being gay and this, and I'm thinking, well, that sounds like such an angry, mean God, and it sounds like division. It sounds like, teaching hate more than it does the other way around. And and I was telling him, I says, God created everybody. So I don't know. It's weird how people get when they put the religious dogma in it. I mean, me personally, I don't have an opinion. If somebody's gay, they're gay. I don't care. But to say they're going to burn in hell for it, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, homosexuality is a hot topic these days especially, but I look at things differently now than I used to. I used to think the same things. The Torah talks very specifically about homosexuality. It's not right. It's not to be engaged in. And in the Bible, that is a true story that the Lord did kill someone for that. But what I've learned is this: that the system that was set up when man was unlawfully created through a great rebellion, the system that was set up is a system of intercourse. And what I mean by that is literally that when man was made, sexual intercourse was the primary reason for the creation of man. That was the thing. When man's body was created for the Igigi, or the fallen ones, to inhabit, the fallen ones then said to Marduk, which is the representation of Saturn or Satan, "You've built these temples of the human body for us. What will we do to show you our thanks? We will build for you the Paraku." Paraku means, literally in Sumerian, to spread the seed of the Ku, Ku. But Ku is the same logogram as Gu in the Sumerian. So the Paraku means to spread the seed of the Jew. Well, how do you spread seed? Well, you spread seed through procreation, through intercourse. And this also, Paraku, as I talk about, as one thing I've discovered also, is that it literally is a word that means the pyramid. Pyramid, fire in the midst. Pyramid. And this is representation, once again, to the phosphate, okay, or what's called a pyran, which is where we get the word pyramid. And another broad genetic term for a six-sided molecule is pyran, and that is the fire. That's the molecule called molech in the Bible they put into us, they fused into us, which is the fire, the pyre, okay? And so this pyramid, this phosphate, is what brought about the ability to spread the seed of the Jew, or the Gu, or humans. Okay.
Be careful, because Monsanto will have a patent on that next.
Yeah, really. but this is the reason for the building of the body. So, if we know that there's a few key pieces that are real important to understand here. Intercourse, as we know it, for the spread of the seed of the Gu is wrong. It was created through a great rebellion, and man, for that purpose, was also the instrument to bring that about. Jesus says in the book of John, it's either John or 1 John, Jesus says, "He who is from above does not sin, because he keeps his seed in him, Now, people will tell you that sin is when you do bad things. Well, no, that's not true. When you do bad things, that is literally an outgrowth of the real meaning of sin. The Hebrew letter, there's a Hebrew letter called sin. And this letter is a picture of two serpents or worms coming together at the bottom. Think of the letter V. And they're joining together at the bottom, and then from the bottom of that V is a horizontal line that goes across and comes up into another serpent. So this is the letter called sin. So it's two serpents coming together, or two serpentas, okay, coming together, producing a third. That's the symbol of procreation. That is done through intercourse. That is the true meaning of sin. This is why Jesus said in the book of John that he who is from above, in other words, the Creator, doesn't sin because his seed remains in him. If that's the case, okay, then those who engage in procreation, who continue to manifest, to procreate, to engage in the original sin, are at fault. The mechanism by which that's brought about is intercourse. I look at homosexuality as aberrant, according to the genetic structure of man. But man himself is aberrant. The problem with any kind of intercourse, whether it's financial intercourse that goes awry or it's sexual intercourse that goes awry, is that it becomes a mechanism that leads us away from the Creator. It is just another distraction. It is a diversion that keeps us from focusing on the Creator. I don't like homosexuality. I don't agree with it. But now that I know what I know, what the ancients were trying to tell us and what's been hidden for thousands of years, procreation is wrong too, as a fact. We have become instruments, well, we were created to be instruments of the rebels that stole the stones of fire, meaning the molecules, those rocks or those stones, okay, with which the pyramid was built, with which the temple of the body was built, both are the one and the same, and we have been used and abused to that end. You know, we think we are evolving. That's a lie. Even one of the laws of thermodynamics, which is entropy, says everything must go from order to disorder. When the earth was formed, it was one solid mass. It's all fragmented now. And that's because we are bound by certain spiritual laws that effectuate change within geography, within everything, within the human body, okay? Everything falls apart. And so we're not evolving. We're becoming more degraded, more chaotic. You can see this anywhere you choose to look. People are destroying their bodies. People are destroying each other. The world is falling apart. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not a fearmonger. I want people to be honest with themselves and look at the world as you see it around you. Look at what's happening. People's minds are not right, like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, Michael. People's minds are not right. They do not see things clearly. They are not focused. They are not honest. People are not honest.
No, they're not.
In debt up to their eyebrows, and they think it's okay. And they just, all they do is, all they care about is having the creature comforts. Well, isn't there more to this life than getting up in the morning and taking the kids to school and going to work and punching in and eating lunch and doing your work and punching out and coming home and picking up the kids and taking
some
up
days I wonder.
Whatever. Oh, my God. Come on, people. I mean, there's more to this. If you don't think there's more to this, then something's seriously wrong with you. There's more to our existence. We were not meant to be trapped in a human body. We were not meant to be trapped on this earth. We came here at one time long, long ago when we were brought here, as the Bible says, that there were a third of the stars that fell, and we continued to procreate through this mechanism of intercourse and continue to spend and get deeper and deeper in debt through that same system of intercourse, which, again, is a legal term for commerce. And we live in Babylon. And this is why the root word of the word Babylon, which is Babel, literally means to pay a debt. This is a debt-based society. And this is why you have a mortgage, which literally in Latin is muerte gage, which means pledge of death. Okay? And this is also something else I do, is I help people get out of debt very, very, very fast at ulearn.us. It's ulearn.us. And because that debt that's been perpetrated on you was done without giving you full disclosure, first of all, and it's part of the spiritual imprisonment you found yourself in. But there's a way out. There's a way out of financial problems. There's a way out of spiritual problems. And those both come by knowing the truth. You've got to know the truth. You got to get your head out of the sand, get it away from your device, whatever that might be, your cell phone, your laptop, your tablet, or your pad, or your e-reader, or your television, or whatever. Break away, sever that tie with your phosphorus-impregnated membrane of your computer screen, okay? Stop letting that data make an impression on your mind and modify your brain, literally, and effectuate change in your pineal gland that is a good thing. Stop it. Listen to reason. Come out, like it says in Revelation 18:4, come out of her. Come out of her. And there's a reason it says her. It's a reason it says her. You know, it all has to do with the original rebel who broke away to do her own thing, like it says in Isaiah 47, to stay and grind and burn so she would never have the loss of children and would always have a husband through the system of intercourse that she was creating. These are real things, people. These are talked about in allegories and metaphors and myths and fables throughout all of the ancient cultures and all the ancient texts. They're there. You have just been lied to for a long, long time. And I know that most people don't want to listen. Most people just don't want to listen. That's the way it's always been. Every time the Creator would send somebody to teach, they always got ridiculed and criticized and ostracized and maligned and slandered and every other thing. And then they die, and then the people say, oh, wow, you know what? We should have listened. We should have listened. An example of this is in the book of Jeremiah, when the people were being led astray into Babylon. And the prophet Jeremiah came along and he said, don't go into Babylon. You will fall prey to their ways. You will be a victim of their teachings. Don't go. And yet they went. And they got enslaved. There were only a few that escaped. King Zedekiah's daughter Scota escaped. And this is where we get the word Scotland. She married a prince over there and founded Scotland. But everybody else went in. They went into Babylon. They became enslaved. And you know whose fault it was? It was the fault, and he tells us this. He tells us this in several places, in Jeremiah 2:8, in Jeremiah 10:21, in Jeremiah 12:10, Jeremiah 22:22, and 23:1 and 2, and other places, and in the book of Ezekiel it says this. It was the fault of the religious leaders that Jeremiah called by name. He called them the pastors. The pastors were the ones who led them astray and led them into Babylon, where they became slaves. This is where we are today. We think that we are not, but we are slaves. And this is why in Revelation 18:4, in reference to Mystery Babylon, it tells us to come out of her. Stop engaging in the intercourse. Stop engaging in the debt-based society. Stop encumbering yourself with usury, which means interest, financial interest. People need to stop doing these things. They're just getting deeper and deeper and deeper into financial and spiritual debt. And this is one thing I try to teach people. It's a hard thing to really understand, but the slavery that you are in right now, the financial and the spiritual slavery, will be a tool to get you to do the wrong thing in the coming days, because you're in pain right now. You are suffering right now, and you hate your situation. You do it because people say you got to have a job, you got to pay your bills, you got to have a mortgage, you got to have a roof over your head, you got to have a car to drive, so you got to have these usurious
and you do though
things. Well, you don't always have to do it through a loan though, and through borrowing. This is what Babylon means, to pay a debt. People do these things getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and the reason that they are letting you do this is because they will provide a solution. And that solution will require you to do something that is spiritually detrimental to you. And I believe it will come in the form of a physical mark, what the Bible calls the mark of the beast. We all have that mark in us right now. As a fact, the beast, the Bible says that the harlot sat upon the beast. The phrase "sit upon" is the Greek word epi, E-P-I, which means to put downward pressure on a thing on which it sits and to move back and forth. Now, I don't need to go into detail. I think people can use their imaginations, to understand that that's referring to intercourse. Okay? And the harlot sat upon the beast. Well, the beast is man. Okay? The mark of the beast is the mark that was put into man at the time when he was manufactured by the figure known as Yahweh, but which is an alias for someone else. And we all have it in us. The Bible tells us that it's 666, and it says that it's the mark, or it's the number of a man. Well, why is it the number of a man? And why is that 666 the mark? Well, because we are carbon-based. We are carbon-based, as are other life forms too, which were also created at that time by that same entity. But carbon, that form of carbon has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 6, 6, 6. This is the mark of the beast. As a fact, that's just the way it is. Believe it or not, I don't care. That's the truth of the matter. However, there are many levels of this mark, just like there are many levels of symbolism within all of the secret societies. There's usually at least about 5 or 6 layers. And they will manifest this mark as a physical mark in the future. They've already done it with the barcode. The first, the middle, and the last bars on all barcodes are the same length and the same width, the same thickness. And they all have those 3, the first, the middle, and the last, all have the same numerical equivalent, which is 6. So in the barcode itself, which is on all food products, all products that you buy through the system of intercourse that we're in,
it's on everything.
It's on everything. It means 666. But there will be a time when I really truly believe this, when they will come and say, we are going to forgive your debts. All you need to do is take this physical mark, whether it's in the form of a tattoo as a barcode or whether it's in the form of a microchip, which is already being used by thousands of people all across the world, entire towns in California, if you do your research. There's even vans that go around the country. I forget what they call them, but there are these vans that go around. And if you want to take the chip, they'll give it to you. Okay? And these chips are simply a small version of the barcode, which is why, I don't know if you've ever been into a grocery store when someone has done this, but I know of people who have, and the person to pay for their groceries simply waves their hand over the barcode reader. That's because they have the chip in them, and that chip has the barcode of mark 666 inside of it, and it enables them to withdraw money from their bank account by simply waving their hand over that barcode reader. They've already taken the mark. Okay? And this is one mechanism that they're going to manipulate you to do the wrong thing by coming to you and providing a solution, saying, we will alleviate your pain of your debt if you simply do this. This is our
and if I may add, these chips have been known to cause cancer in animals because we know that they already use them at all these rescue shelters. You know, you can't take a pet out of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they market it as a benefit to you, you know, as an added benefit when you buy a pet in the pet store. A bonus. Oh, by the way, he's been chipped. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I get a discount? You know, but it's just people's minds are not right because their minds have been not programmed with the truth, but they have been programmed with lies, and this is where we found ourselves as a society. We live in a world that is based on the lies. Jesus warned about it. He warned about it. He said, beware of the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees. A little bit of leaven, a little bit, puffs or adulterates the whole thing. And leaven is yeast. And we know that yeast causes disease. When a person's body has a lot of yeast in it, it produces the perfect environment for disease to thrive. Okay? Candida, or whatever you want to call it, it is an environment for disease. And the mind of humans, wholesale, pretty much, has been filled with the leaven of the lying scribes. That's why Jeremiah 8:8 tells us the pen of the scribes is a liar. And this is why Jesus was the one that was always at odds with them. They were always trying to interrogate him and corner him and trap him in his words, because his way was antithetical or against their way. They were the ones who have perpetrated this upon humanity, and anyone who follows them will pay a price, a very, very heavy price.
And Scott, one of our listeners asked about the orb and UFO connection.
Yeah, you know, this is something, believe it or not, this is talked about all throughout the Bible. When we read about Ezekiel's wheel, it's called the wheel within a wheel. Well, that was really mistranslated. The word wheel simply is translated from the Hebrew word, which means to turn. And that can be anything that turns. And this is the same thing that took Elijah up and dismantled him, which was not a bad thing. And it's the same thing referred to as the abomination of desolation. And Jesus said in the book of Matthew, it's either 13 or 24, he gives the parable of the fig tree. And the disciples come to him and say, what will be the signs of the end of the age? And he gives all of these signs like famine and war and all of these different things. And then he says, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, know that summer is nigh. And furthermore, he says in that same chapter that another sign of summer being nigh is when the leaves begin to be put forth on the fig tree. Well, first of all, the abomination of desolation, which again is the same as Ezekiel's wheel, has been standing in the holy place since about 1990. Pastors and theologians don't know these things, though. The word holy is hagios in the Greek. Okay, it's from the root hagos, which really means an awful thing, not a holy thing. In other words, it's like telling us that something that is presenting itself as holy, but it's not really holy. It's awful, pretending to be holy, kind of like Jesus said, those who say they are Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Okay? They're masquerading, they're pretending. And so if there's something that says it's holy, but is really not, which we have in our world, we have something that fits that description perfectly. We should be looking to that place for the abomination of desolation, or something that is a wheel within a wheel, or more accurately, a sphere within a sphere. And this is what we see when we look in front of the Vatican. In 1990, they began placing these things, these golden orbs, or these spheres, in various locations. The United Nations has one. There's a university that has one in Japan. There's different corporations that have them. There's about 11 of them around the world. They were created by an artist named Arnoldo Pomodoro. And they are literally golden spheres within spheres. And there's a crack in all of them. So it enables you to see inside. You can see the other sphere inside of this sphere, the inner sphere inside of the outer sphere. And if you recall the description of Ezekiel's wheel, he says it was the color of beryl, which means like a goldish color, a bronzish or goldish color. And this is why these things are depicted as being this color. They are literally a fulfillment of the prophecy that Jesus gave about the abomination of desolation, or the wheel within a wheel, or the sphere within a sphere, standing in the holy place. And the word stand in that passage literally means simply to be set up where people can see it. And if all you have to do to see a fulfillment of this prophecy is go onto YouTube and look up Vatican Sphere. Okay? That's there. There's hundreds of these pictures. And this is the same thing that Asu or Jesus talked about in his parable of the fig tree. He says, when you begin to see the leaves being put forth from the fig tree, know that summer, or the Sumerians, are nigh, are close. This is important to know because this is one of the most important prophecies in the entire Bible. The word leaf in the Greek, which is the language that was written in, is the word pula, P-U-L-A. And it means leaf. But it's no coincidence that when I take that back to the Sumerian language, there is also a logogram, pula, spelled exactly the same way, which means chariots. When we think of the Egyptian chariots, for instance, okay, or the Roman or the Greek chariots, the Roman chariots with the two wheels and the axle in the middle, you know, we all have seen these in the movies and so forth. It's no coincidence that a leaf in its biology has a piece called an axle, spelled A-X-I-L. So the chariot has an axle, spelled A-X-L-E, and a leaf has an axle as well. Well, what is this axle? Well, the axle in a leaf enables it to turn into a leaf. Okay? It's a part of the leaf's biology that, like the chariot that enables it to turn on its axle, also enables the leaf to turn. This is a beautiful picture that Jesus is giving us of what to look for to know that the end of the world is upon us. And that is when the leaves or the chariots begin to be put forth from the fig tree. And the fig tree is simply a reference to Nibiru. In my book, The Red Dragon and the Sheep, I talk about this and how the word Nibiru, or Nibiru, literally means one's own fruit tree. In other words, the tree from which we were plucked, the tree from which we came. And this is the same location that we need to go back to when we repent.
And this is going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it.
There's nothing that we want to do about it. This is a
dismantling
of the DNA. It's going to eliminate the evil, and it's going to harvest the good back to the Father, back to the tree, back to the fruit tree. And this is all has to do with the story of the fruit that Eve took, et cetera, et cetera. This is the real meaning of it I'm giving people right now. They've never known the true meaning of it before this. I'm telling people this is what this is all about. This is what's been hidden from you. And so this is what he's saying. When we begin to see these spheres, these wheels in wheels, or these orbs being put forth in the sky, this is a sign that the end is imminent, that it is upon us. And this is happening all over the world, as you probably know, Michael. There's been footage caught in every corner of the world of these orbs. These things are flying in the skies all over the world. And these are different, I believe, than the saucers, which I said earlier in the show are tortoise-shaped, shaped like a tortoise shell. And the word, the logograms tordis, Turdis, represents Saturn, which in the Greek is the word for hell. Okay, and so these spheres, these orbs, which are flying all over the place in the skies, are the figs on the fruit tree. And interestingly, in the Greek language, the word fig is P-I-S, or pish, P-I-S-H. And when we go to the Sumerian language, the word pish means, the word pish means fig, but turned around, it is what? Ship. It is ship. P-I-S-H is the same as S-H-I-P. And these are the figs, or the orbs, or the leaves, which turn into the fig. Okay? Just like the axle allows the chariot to turn, these leaves turn on the axle into the fig. And I go into detail about it in the book. I'm only giving a little piece of it right now, but this is what is going to happen. And the closest thing I've seen to this is a movie that was put out about a group of 4 young people, 4 teenagers who are in Russia. And while they're in Russia, these orbs begin to descend to the earth. And they hover above the ground, and they wander. These orbs go throughout the streets in the city looking for people. And they cast these rays on people, and the people are demolecularized, I guess, or they're dismantled. But of course, knowing who runs the media, they've twisted it, they've spun this to appear to be a bad thing. And the people are running frantically away from them, and they're trying to escape and so on and so forth. But this is just a twisting. Which, by the way, the root word of the word Elohim, which is God in the Old Testament, means to twist, literally. So everything that's been spun from your own DNA, which is spun, to the media, which is spun, just like the show Spin City, which Michael J. Fox was an older show which talked about the media. Okay, everything that's been spun is done by those original spinners. Okay, and incidentally, the word cover, which is the word sakak, S-A-K-A-K in the Hebrew, this is a reference to Lucifer, literally means to weave together, like our DNA has been spun or woven together, kind of like Rumpelstiltskin did with the gold and the hair. And this is that fairy tale was put out like that because those who did it knew the significance of a logogram in the Sumerian language, which is Har, H-A-R, which means a spiral bracelet, but it's literally, it just means a spiral. And this is the thing we see on the upper arms of the Egyptian hieroglyphs, on the Sumerian hieroglyphs, and the Babylonian hieroglyphs. And this is a secret symbol that I discovered literally means those people had secret genetic knowledge. And it's the logogram Har, which is why Rumpelstiltskin was spinning. He is involved with the Har, the spinning of the Har and turning it into gold, which literally just is a demotic way of saying God. When you remove the L, it means God. The Sumerians were not digging for gold or mining for gold. They were undermining God in their genetic modification. That's the true story, even hidden within the Sumerian texts. This has been going on for thousands of years. So
some fascinating information, Doctor. It really is. We're getting down on time, however, and I do want to give you a chance to direct everybody to your website, where they can get your books, and what you got on your plate next.
Sure, absolutely. Anyone who is a real truth seeker, I invite you with open arms to come to innercircle.us. Innercircle.us. You can learn directly from me. I can teach you one-on-one. You can read my books. You can interact with other people. It's an entire social network set up for this purpose, where you can read and watch hundreds of videos and lots of things. You can also go to Paxion Publishing, Paxeon Publishing.com, where you can read more. As far as what I have next, I just finished a book called The Tribulation. It's just doing extremely well. I explain what the tribulation is and what's going to happen in the near future, in the coming days. And you can find out more about that at thetribulation.us. And I'm working on 2 other books right now, Pyrenosis and The Genesis Faction, which I hope to have finished soon. But all of these things are, I've only scratched the surface tonight. In all of these writings, you can just gain a wealth of information that you're not going to find anywhere else. So I encourage you, while you have time, to read as much as you possibly can. So.
Absolutely, and I'm positive that we'll have you back in the near future. We get a great response when we touch on this topic because, it's touchy. I'll tell you before I let you go, the last time you were on, I put the show on YouTube, and left it pretty much open for comments. And, half the people were with you, and the ones that weren't were the very, very religious, my Christian teachings are the only way kind of people. And I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying they were the ones who, thought that we were crazy. So.
Sure. I get that all the time. It's just expected, And in 2 Thessalonians 2:11, it says that because people did not love the truth, because the masses, meaning Christians and everybody, did not love the truth, God would hand them over to a strong delusion that would cause them to believe a lie. That's where Christianity and other religions and people of the world have found themselves. And I try to teach the truth to pull them out, because knowing the truth and loving it is the mechanism by which they can come out of that. So anybody who wishes to come out of it may do so. Just come to the website. So.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you so very much for spending this time with us tonight. I appreciate it, and I enjoy the work that you do. And, till next time, thank you so much, and enjoy your weekend.
Well, Michael, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
Iran's justice system is pretty harsh in general. What's decided cannot be undone. So, when you're there, you get sentenced. There's no, hey, I want to appeal this. They said they are trying to set an example. Elite criminals shouldn't be treated differently than any other criminal. They should be prosecuted, not protected. And I totally agree with that. and I'm still fighting my cold, but getting through it. According to constitutional attorney Michael Connolly, the government is now moving to strip veterans it determines to be mentally incompetent of their Second Amendment right to own a firearm. Connolly cites a letter sent by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs to hundreds, perhaps thousands, of America's heroes. Determination of incompetency will prohibit you from purchasing, processing, receiving, or transporting a firearm or ammunition. The VA letter states if you knowingly violate any of these prohibits, you will be fined, imprisoned, or both, pursuant to the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, as implemented at 18 United States Code 924, as they've got it here in this article. Connolly explains that the letter provides no specifics on the reasons for the proposed findings of incompetency and is based on determination by a bureaucrat at the VA. In every state in the United States, no one can be declared incompetent to administer their own affairs without due process of law, and that usually requires a hearing with evidence being offered to prove to a judge that the person is indeed incompetent. This is a requirement of the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and obviously the Department of Veteran Affairs can't be bothered with such implements as the Constitution, particularly since they are clearly pushing to fulfill one of Obama's main goals, the disarming of the American people. And that's what it's coming to. And, and there's that big question. If that day comes and they start going door to door collecting guns, what the hell is going to happen? I mean, there's going to be some people who are going to, fight it out. And then there's others that wonder, what do you do? I mean, because when you start shooting, are they going to roll in the tanks, the drones? What else? So people, I think now more than ever would be a great time for each and every one of us to come together and maybe discuss, I don't know, we got the internet, so we could bring some communities together and let's discuss as the people what we're going to do if that happens. Because I think we need to know, because they already know what they're going to do if you don't oblige. So we better know what we're going to do if we're not going to drop to our knees and kiss their rings. Getting serious. And we'll be talking more about that with my guest tonight. An ancient Egyptian pyramid dating back more than 3,000 years has been discovered in the city of Luxor. The monument was built for an advisor to King Ramses. The remains were unearthed during excavations on a hill in Shiki Adel Awana. I'm trying to say these weird names by an archaeological mission from the Free University of Brussels in Liege. They say the mud brick pyramid, whose original height was 15 meters, comes with quite a history, and they say that they could be now getting closer to discovering the truth about our ancestors. You mean they're not monkeys? We didn't evolve from the ape?
Before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous. That our foreign policy has nothing to do with national security, that it never changes from one administration to the next. What if war and preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests?
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
Make these elected people start looking at that document called the Constitution. We have the ability to rise up and change it. It isn't popular speech that must be protected. Popular speech doesn't need protection. It is unpopular speech that you protect.
The mafia never actually went away. It just got bigger and more powerful. It's called the United States government.
Anybody who debunk the UFO phenomenon itself don't know what he's talking about.
The hell with this Patriot Act.
Good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the globe, in the chat room or on the phone lines. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and this broadcast is coming at you live from the East Coast of the United States, more specifically, the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina. You know, it's funny, I just double-checked to make sure I didn't have my other microphone muted. Good evening, everybody, and welcome aboard. Tonight we've got Dr. Scott McQuate returning to Late Night in the Midlands. You know, it's interesting. He has, just like many of the guests who I bring on, has quite a view as far as what they feel they've uncovered within the Bible, the prophecies, even ancient texts, what have you. Well, Scott's one of those guys who feels as though he's got it figured out and he's got the answers, at least a lot of the answers. So seems he has some much, much bigger goals, and that's what we need, some private type space organizations coming together and doing these things. This way maybe we can get the truth rather than everything being held back by NASA and our government. And, you know, I will be so happy when this cold is finally over with. As I said, it was almost gone, and then this coughing part came to it with this constant scratch in the throat. And, you know, if I don't keep my coffee, my water, and occasionally my Mountain Dew, which I'm about to stop drinking that because I've read enough stuff to say yuck. So, but I got to keep a drink close by here. Otherwise, I'll start choking on you. 347-989-1012. That's the number to call in. I'm going to take a break and refill my mug. And when we come back, I'll have Dr. Scott McQuate with us here on Late Night in the Midlands. Get over to latenightinthemidlands.com.
Is there proof of God's existence in our government's records? Author Jose Collazo brings his years of research into this stunning question to light in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more. Touching on little-known government projects such as the Remote Viewers Program and active auroral research program, Collazo has uncovered some amazing discoveries through his research and use of the Freedom of Information Act. From uncovered information on the Ark of the Covenant to connections between natural disasters and nuclear testing, experience this revealing look into our government's obscure and hidden work. Discover how new and experimental technologies may change our world forever and uncover monumental proof and answers to mankind's greatest questions in God Does Exist, No More Nuclear Testing, and more.
Hello, this is Michael Vera for CureShop.com with products endorsed by Dr. Leonard Horowitz, including Liquid Dentist, a one-stop defense system for not only your mouth, but your whole body. This unprecedented product aggressively attacks the critters that cause oral diseases using concentrated microfine silver plus oxygen and minerals to help reverse tooth decay and gum diseases, helping repair your teeth and gums naturally. Then, by swallowing this amazing and good-tasting tooth and gum saver, you actually get a natural, nutritional immunization against more than 1,000 strains of oral bacteria and viruses when you swallow. Liquid Dentist is awesome for boosting natural immunity. Imagine your teeth feeling hygienic clean and super smooth for up to 3 days after each use. Swish with it 3 minutes or more after brushing and flossing. Gargle to freshen and protect your throat, and then swallow Liquid Dentist. Wow! What a great idea. It's all natural, healing, and protective. Dr. Horowitz developed Liquid Dentist based on emerging science from England showing a 20-second exposure to medical-grade ozone kills germs deep within decay, even down to the nerve. Then highly concentrated mineral mouth rinsing can remineralize your teeth and harden them, even harder than they were originally. This way, teeth can be saved and not drilled away or lost due to decay or tooth fracture. Plus, Liquid Dentist kills periodontal germs and leaves your breath fresh and teeth feeling professionally clean for days. Go to liquiddentist.net to learn more, or go to CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com. Wow, that's news. Putin warns Obama. Last Saturday, the U.S. media went wild, saying things about Russia, like Russian nuclear bombers intercepted near Guam. Air Force confirms Russian jet circled U.S. territory, sending a message. Russian Bear bombers caught circling Guam before Obama delivered the State of Union. That was the Blaze that said that. It happened right before Obama delivered his State of the Union address, they said. And this was Putin. He's not too happy. The funny thing was, he says, is that it happened last Tuesday, but was not reported until Saturday. The Blaze is right, he says. There was a message. NBC and others would have been on time with their news if they had listened closer to Putin rather than kissing Obama's behind and following Soros' orders. Last Thursday, Putin sent Obama a Valentine. Any kind of direct or implicit interference with Russia's home affairs, all sorts of pressure being exerted on our country or our allies is absolutely unacceptable, he told Obama. He never mentioned the U.S. never said that the U.S. implied that it was going to put up these anti-bomb and missile defenses that they wanted to put, I believe, in Turkey. And so he had some things to say about that as well. I'm trying to put it together, folks. I've got my notes here are kind of scrambled. Let's see here. He says, with McFaul paying off protesters in Moscow and spreading hate, as well as Soros backing Obama, and Sharp while pushing Clinton to extremes, the U.S. looks more like terrorists than the terrorists they started fighting. And, I can't argue with that. We do. I told you, our military is being used as a strong arm, the iron fist of the New World Order. And it's really sickening. And then when they come home, they want to strip them of their weapons, of their rights, and they want to drug them up and just forget about them. The meeting in Moscow was about counterterrorism. And again, can anyone blame Putin for defending Russia? I can't. And let's face it, we're over there, we're screwing around, with a lot of their interest. And, it's not looking good. I tell you, these other countries are getting sick of what's going on. And, they need to know, though, that the American people are sick of it, too. It's the New World Order who's behind it all. And if I can get my stuff straightened out here, I will. Okay, an entrepreneur wants to charter a SpaceX rocket to launch 2 interplanetary buddies on the ultimate joyride, a mission to Mars, but the timeline is tight, as in 5 years' time. All these stories are over on LateNightInTheMidlands.com in the latest news section. You could check them out this way while I'm screwing them up. You can get the real deal by going to the website in the latest news and checking it out yourself. But they want to do a private space flight and put two men up there. The random piece of space flight news is brought to you by Dennis Tito, a multimillionaire and founder of the nonprofit Inspiration Mars Foundation. Tito also knows a thing or two about space. He was the world's first space tourist who in 2001 spent a little over a week living on board the International Space Station, which he paid $20 million for his orbital trek. And now he's talk to us tonight about that. And I know last time he was on, we got quite a response. I got a lot of messages after, and especially we put it up on YouTube and had quite a bit of action going on there as well. And, half the people are like, hey, he's right on. And then there's that other half, that the really tight religious ones who got a little irritated with some of it. And, hey, that's what we're here for, to stir things up. It's February 22nd, 2013. We all seem to still be alive, at least for one more day, one more night, and here we are. 347-989-1012, that's the number to call in. When we start taking calls, you have to press 1, so I know you want to get on, and you can also call in using Skype. And, my ex, her timing is impeccable. It seems like whenever, the very few times that she actually drops my son off to me, it's like she gets here just when I'm going on the air. Just when I'm going on the air. I don't know, it seems like it's timed perfectly. Yeah, no animosity there, right? All right, let's talk about what's in the news. Iran's justice system recently worked through the biggest banking fraud case in the nation's history. According to an article by the New York Times, the outcome of the case was made official on Monday. Results were dramatic, to say the least. The justice spokesman, and I'm not even going to try that name, told reporters that 4 people had been officially sentenced to death on charges of corruption and disrupting the country's economic system. The guilty party was responsible for mishandling $2.6 billion of funds, using forged documents in order to receive credit from banks, permitting them to purchase state-owned companies. According to the indictment, the owners of Area Investment Development Company, which is at the center of controversy, had bribed bank managers to get loans and letters of credit. The company has more than 35 offshoots, which are active in diverse business activities. Additionally, the president of the bank, Melly Branch in Quiche, was condemned to life in prison, so he's getting off easy, though. The former deputy minister has been ordered to spend a decade in prison as well, according to Iran's attorney general. Several others involved in this infamous scandal has also been slapped with heavy fines, and many have also been prohibited from holding public office. Economist Nori Robini added, bankers are greedy. They have been greedy for the last hundreds of years, and you have to make sure that they behave in ways in which you minimize those risks. Well, apparently they didn't minimize those risks, and now I understand there are 3 of them, or is it 3 or 4? I think it's 3 of them, the last I heard, that are set to hang. They're going to hang them. They're going to get rid of some of these crooked bankers. And I got to tell you, perhaps Iran is onto something by enforcing real consequences when insiders mess with the country's entire economic system. The death sentence decision is obviously harsh, but nevertheless, they got it. There's 4 bankers that are going to, they're going to meet the noose. The death sentence decision, again, it's harsh, but